Welcome back to our Thanksgiving episode of Geeks Are Sexy. Yeah, we're a day late, but we all took a little bit of a holiday yesterday. I hope you did too. I hope you got to enjoy time with your friends and your family on Thanksgiving Day. I'm Jason LeDuc, founder of Evil Genius Leadership Consultants, and every last Friday of the month I take over from Michelle Davis. I take the Geeks Are Sexy program over, and I talk about all things that are business, entrepreneur related, and success related, and how to go about doing it here in Las Vegas. My guest right now for this segment is Bo Warburton. He's a tech entrepreneur who's had 3 tech startups. He's also a Navy officer, or a former Navy officer, and as a former retired Air Force veteran, thank you for your service. I hear that from a lot of people. I don't get to say that to a lot of people sometimes, so thank you for your service in the Navy.
Thank you too, Jason.
We were talking about some fun Navy stories outside before we came in. And something that's
specifically which service has the better use of the ceremonial sabers.
That's right, which is the Air Force. And something that was really fascinating in your bio that I found, and I want to circle back to this later on, is you studied Chinese folklore and mythology. Yeah. And I want to hear all about, we're going to get into some nuts and bolts questions first, but I want to hear all about how you use what you learned studying Chinese folklore and mythology in your tech entrepreneurship businesses. So my co-founder, who I hope you'll have on the show at some point, the technical he's the programmer. I'm always looking for guests.
He's cringing right now.
No, I'm always looking for guests. So Jason at evilgeniusleadership.com, or find us on social media.
There is a tie-in. The folklore thing was because I've always been interested in sort of seeing beyond the story, and grew up my father and mother reading to us a lot, including fairy tales and the traditional Grimm's folk tales. And I went to a lecture where somebody gave a whole interpretation of one of the tales, and I thought, boy, that was great. It really hit home. It was an interpretation about how you use the story to integrate your life and personality, and so I had to study a language. I wasn't able to test out a language requirement, so I figured, what's the hardest language? Chinese. And I didn't want to study computer science because I thought that would be too easy for me. I had already done some programming before college, and so I figured Chinese folklore would be harder. Not only was it an interesting thing to kind of see past the stories into the lives of cultures, but also it would be a difficult undertaking, and it turns out it was. Chinese folklore was hard.
I have no doubt. And these are, like you said, it's about the story behind the story. Yeah. And when you peel back the layers of successful entrepreneurs and some of the big companies that we've seen have had big exits over the years, there's always a story behind the story, and there's always some little piece like that influences that entrepreneur's decision-making process or how they got into what they were doing. And so it's always great to have layers to our personality, because they are the story behind the story that help us become successful later on. And it may not be obvious, but those little things that you enjoyed and found fascinating earlier in your life come back and help you with your thought process later on.
And you kind of discover the story almost, right?
Absolutely.
It's like it was there, but you're walking the path that's laid in front of you, making the story, discovering it as you go. That was definitely part of Blinker. In fact, I mentioned my co-founder.
So speaking of the story, let's talk about Blinker and what Blinker's all about.
Yeah, so his name is Craig Martin, and I called him up. We had worked together in one of these startups. I said 3. I've been part of 3 startups. One was mine, a consulting firm. The others I was part of, so I didn't start them. But Craig and I were working at this one 15 years ago here in Las Vegas, and I called him up because he's by far, I've had this life after the Navy and grad school in tech. He's by easily the best programmer I've ever met and dealt with a lot of them. And I called him up to see if he'd be interested in this, and I gave him a story about Blinker. Like the big idea is to have some way of getting data out of your subconscious processing. So blink of an eye kind of thought process, turn that into data in a cheap and easy and quick way, like without having to go to an fMRI machine or with eye trackers, right? So, but that's a big idea. You got to have a specific problem. And I called him and talked about one particular problem around getting better feedback in particular for being a referee, soccer referee. And he immediately said, Bo, you're thinking too small. And that's not something almost anyone has ever said to me. Not a problem I've usually had.
And it's not a compliment when you're an entrepreneur either.
No, he didn't mean it's a compliment.
Bigger guys, bigger.
Yeah, bigger. He went bigger, and I was like, so I knew right then this was going to happen. We were going to do this. It was a while before our lives aligned, and we got in to do it. But he's right. There's a much bigger idea that hopefully we'll make happen through a series of small ideas, small apps that people can use. So to be more concrete for everybody, right now, if you go to blinker.com, blnqr.com, you'll see it's all educational. It's instructional technology for K through 8, 5 to 13-year-old, 12, 13-year-olds, or 14-year-olds to try to help them use this capability of thinking quickly to achieve mastery quicker in math or all kinds of things where you have to memorize, or any kind of field where true mastery of it is demonstrated by knowing it without having to think about it too much.
Okay, that's really great, because oftentimes we hear about the downsides of thinking too quickly, of making those snap judgments. And if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about this kind of idea of thin slicing. And he shows where it can be really good in combat situations. He shows where it can set us back in other situations as well. And so Blinker, if I'm understanding it right, is trying to help people develop that skill and trust in that skill when those situations are appropriate. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And engage your intuition or gut feeling. There's a lot of words for it. Thin slicing. He says rapid cognition.
Yes.
And so the book's title, Blink, was one of the inspirations for the name of the company, Blinker. We got the R, meaning the action, right? It's a blinker. And
no vowels.
No vowels. Yeah, I'm not a vowelist. Y'all vowelists out there need to.
Twitter gave in and bought the vowels, so you might do it later on. We'll see.
We may. I have noticed that outside the U.S. it can be difficult to pronounce. But anyway, we're going for it for now. There may be other brands as we attack different problems with it. But that's right. Thin slicing. So use your intuition or gut feeling. The power of thinking without thinking. Want to take that power and use it for good. Starting off, in the classroom or at home for homeschoolers or kids. Maybe help solve the problem of using a cell phone for as a babysitter. So many of us with kids, you end up, and you see it a lot with parents giving their kids a cell phone to pacify them. Well, instead of watching a video, maybe you could play some blinkers and get a little educational experience. That's our hope.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool. So this is a very different kind of company. I mean, at its core, it's a tech company, but its mission is very different for a tech company, and its method is very different for a tech company. So what is the biggest lesson you've learned trying to bring Blinker into reality?
So we're really still at the early stages of it. We have what people you might call minimum viable product out on the website, but
Which guys is not minimum. There are a ton of blinkers to go do.
Oh,
on
thank
that
you.
Website.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning
There are a ton. I went and looked at it. There's a ton to go do.
It's funny that we're definitely. I feel like I've gone through the list of things an entrepreneur shouldn't do, and I'm just checking them off one by one. I'm going to learn by failure by getting the list of failures.
That's what entrepreneurs do.
And go through them all. So it's not new wisdom, but the idea that you should focus on one thing, one specific problem. That's probably pretty good advice.
Okay.
I don't know if we could have done it before now. We've spent a lot of time developing the platform. Now we're ready to tackle sort of one problem at a time.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I think that's it's a way bigger. It's a much bigger thing. My dream is to be able to sell this thing to everyone, or give it to everyone who has an internet connection. Sell it to them twice.
Okay. Well, let's
right.
Let's get everybody over there. So it's blinker.com.
Yeah.
There's not an app yet.
Not an app.
Not an app. Coming?
Yeah, coming. Absolutely. Yeah,
cool.
We're definitely gonna have app or multiple apps.
So it's blinker.com, and what's a super fun blinker that people could go and really get the idea of what Blinker's all about if they went and did that one, or what's the most popular one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most of the ones you see on the front page, we're going to have a fun page too. Most of them you see now are kind of educational, spelling words, numbers, state capitals. But there is one that's really popular, which is a Harry Potter Hogwarts sorting hat.
Okay.
My daughter made it, and that's a lot of fun.
Okay. And can they make their own blinkers?
They can. Yep.
Okay.
Right now it's all free. Register for an account, make your own. Yeah.
So you can go make your own blinker. So go check it out. Do the Harry Potter sorting hat.
Yeah.
Don't come after me, J.K. Rowling. So,
yeah, that's right.
A little girl made this. A Harry Potter.
Not a little girl, but a young woman.
Harry Potter sorting hat.
It's
and
awesome.
Bo, before we go, we're going to have you back for the panel discussion. But before we go, it's blinker.com. But how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you personally?
Yep, Bo at blinker.com, bo@blinker.com. At Bo Warburton is Twitter. And LinkedIn is great too. LinkedIn, you find me at LinkedIn/in/Warburton.
He's easy to find on LinkedIn.
Yep.
LinkedIn is my preferred way of connecting up with people as well. So, well, thank you for being here. We will see you in just a few minutes for our panel discussion.
All right, thanks.
I'm Jason LeDuc from Evil Genius Leadership Consultants, taking over from Michelle Davis on Geeks Are Sexy, and we will be back with Sean, Bo, and our panel discussion in just a few minutes.